Intel's Lunar looks to be mighty competitive. Macs are going to start with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and the next generation of GPUs are just going to consume a lot of power. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Monday, August 26, 2024. Going to start off today talking about the Lunar Lake laptops that are expected to get debuted on September 4th, I believe is the date that these are supposed to make their entryway into the world. And now we're getting new benchmarks of the Ultra 7 268V, as well as some leaked pricing on some of these notebooks, which help to make it look incredibly competitive. Considering that Qualcomm and AMD have already launched their competitors to Lunar Lake, we've got some indication of what the entire lineup is going to look like. So on multi-core, it looks like the Core Ultra 7 is going to be rather competitive with what's out there on the market with the Ryzen AI 9s, getting very close at roughly half the wattage with the 268V. But then when it comes to single core performance, it looks like that the new Ultra 7 benchmarks are putting it above what AMD has on the Ryzen AI 9 chips, again at half the wattage, coming in at 17 watts in performance versus 35 watts for the Ryzen AI 9. And then over on the GPU side of things, only the Geekbench OpenCL tests were done, which make it look like the integrated GPUs on these chips are competing with the A370M. So not the best performance, but again, it's integrated graphics, and OpenCL is not where Intel's GPU strong suits tend to lie. So we obviously will wait for more gaming benchmarks to come out as the days populate. But the population of the pricing is happening, with Asus and Acer models getting their prices leaked at a French retailer, indicating that some of these models should be under $1,000 US. And some of the more pricey ones to get the full-fledged Ultra 7 are looking to be about $1,200 to $1,300. One of the big reasons this is notable is because companies like AMD and Qualcomm both are starting very expensive. I think right now the cheapest AI 365 chip you can get is roughly $1,200, but most of them are in that $1,400 region. The same goes with the Snapdragon X Elite chips. You can get the X Plus for somewhere around $1,000, but you are compromising quite heavily for that. But in order to drop the price even more, Qualcomm's looking to release an 8-core version of the Snapdragon X Plus chip, which has been kind of rumored before, but it looks like it should be debuting sometime soon. But in case you're curious about what the difference is between the X Elite and the X Plus, we released this video just about a month ago detailing the difference between the 10 and 12 core, and obviously it's going to scale down with an 8 core when that happens. And a lot of people didn't think that it would happen, but Apple appears to be changing their tune on how much RAM you can get with their entry-level Macs. Reports are coming out that they're going to be starting at 16 gigabytes. Additionally, that the regular M4 versions would go between 16 or 32, which would be higher than the current Gen M3, which tops out at 24 gigabytes. One of the reasons for this is the fact that Apple Intelligence, if you're trying to run large language models, you just need a lot more RAM, and so that's likely why this is happening, especially because Apple's Intelligence can't run on iPhones with lower RAM amounts. It's becoming necessary for that to get baked in. This is despite the fact that Apple has said for a long time that their 8 gigabytes of RAM is equivalent to a PC 16. Well, it turns out that it's not equivalent to actually 16. So now the M4 MacBook Air likely to have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Good news on the laptop front. A lot of changes happening all around. And let's see Reece tell you about the price changes happen all around the PC sector.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you guys had a good weekend, and let me get your week started off right with these deals. Starting off with this EPOMaker EP84 Plus 75% hot swappable wireless mechanical keyboard for only $29.99, making it $30 off. It's amazing how cheap these are getting. Don't forget, you can always use another keyboard. But then next up, we have this Be Quiet Pure Base 500 DX Mid-Tower ATX case for only $56.90, making it $53 off. And then lastly, we have this MSI Pro 24-inch 1080p 100Hz VA monitor for only $64.99, making it $30 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, looks like Meta couldn't get a good enough deal on the displays that they wanted to put in the upcoming Meta Quest Pro 2 that was supposed to compete with the Apple Vision Pro, and so it's officially been canned, which was previously codenamed as La Jolla and supposed to come out in about 2 years. Doesn't look like it's gonna ever see the light of day. One of the reasons for this that's being cited is the fact that they just can't get the pricing under $1,000. Those micro OLED displays are just far too expensive. It's one of the reasons why the Vision Pro costs so much. It is game-changing display technology that's on the inside, and it doesn't look like by 2027 you're gonna be able to include those in a price point that's gonna be that cheap. Additionally, Meta did not sell their Vision Pro headset very well. It looks like the Meta Quest 3S and the Meta Quest 4 are gonna be more of their focus moving forward. And just as somebody who's been staying aware of everything that Meta's been doing since the Vision Pro launch, their Quest 3 hardware is good enough to compete with Apple in terms of getting people to adopt VR or XR, mixed reality, whatever you want to call it. I have really appreciated Meta's approach since Apple lit a fire under their butt. I know people disagree with me on thinking that Meta had a lot of this stuff in the pipeline all along, but they didn't show it until Apple came out and released the competitor. So I'm okay if they don't jack up the price on their hardware and they just keep it a bit more entry level. But like Meta's canceling their Quest Pro 2, it looks like NASA's canceling Boeing. In case you haven't been keeping up with the astronauts who have been stranded in space aboard the International Space Station, they went up on a Boeing Starliner that was then not safe enough to return home. And so NASA, as well as Boeing and SpaceX, have been discussing how do they bring these astronauts home, and it turns out it will not be on the Boeing Starliner. Despite Boeing saying that it's safe enough for the astronauts to return, NASA does not agree, and so they are keeping those 2 astronauts whose initial mission was supposed to be 8 days up there for an additional 6 months until the Crew Dragon from SpaceX is slated to return sometime in February. And that the Boeing Starliner that is currently docked is just going to detach and come back to Earth by itself with no human crew. That's the big thing. They're not confident that it can actually keep the humans safe inside of it, but the SpaceX Crew Dragon is supposed to get there sometime at the end of September. The astronauts who are aboard that are going to stay for their full 6-month mission, and then the 2 astronauts that are currently up there, plus the 2 that are coming on the Crew Dragon, are going to return home, hopefully with a safe passage, and that they all get home in a way where they are uninjured. And unfortunately, this is just going to be another mark against Boeing in all of the things that they've been doing terribly lately. And depending on what side of the equation you're on, you think that NVIDIA has been doing a horrible job lately with its high heat output GPUs. You either are using them as a space heater in the winter, in which case you love it, or you're a reasonable human being who doesn't want to cool all of that and thinks that it's a little ridiculous. Well, according to MSI's new motherboards that got debuted over at Gamescom, it could potentially be getting even worse. MSI showing off their X870 and Z890 motherboards that come equipped with an extra 8-pin power connector at the bottom of the motherboard, which is allegedly going to be used in order to provide additional power via the PCI Express slot to the graphics cards of the RTX 50 series. That would mean that each of the RTX 50 series could pull up to 225 watts from the slot. The PCI Express slot is rated to provide 75 watts of power, and then you have that extra 8-pin adding an additional 150, and then you've got the 16-pin power connector that's supposed to be rated for up to an additional 600. So you're getting 825 watts of total power delivery via the slot, as well as the connector, and then if they add in a second connector, then you've got a massive extreme overclocking GPU like Galaxy releases with their Hall of Fame series overclocking lab editions. But this either means that this is going to require GPUs to consume a lot more power in the future and that NVIDIA is not scaling that down, or it could potentially mean that we just actually don't need to provide as much power via the connector to potentially help with reducing the melting issues. If you're not trying to draw 600 watts off of the connector and instead you're trying to draw some of it off of the PCI Express slot, then you mitigate some of that risk, or none of this actually is going to be used and it's just there for show at Gamescom and it doesn't make the light of day and that NVIDIA's GPUs are exactly the same. It could be that. But it's quite intriguing. I have seen more motherboards release with PCI Express power on them lately. Notably, we've been building with some of the Asus ProArt motherboards on some of our Friday live streams, and those have a 6-pin power located next to the USB-C, and that's for USB-C power delivery so that you can charge your devices more effectively off of the front panel, which is a great implementation. I'm fully on board with that, making it so that your graphics card can consume 800 plus watts I'm also here for that. I kind of want to see it. And I want to see what you guys had to say in Friday's episode of Hot News. We got Commander Talakarni saying, Microsoft, let's fix it. Also Microsoft, still recording all your personal information. And then Chickenfish saying, Microsoft always loves being big brother, controlling and holding all his siblings behind. And Soundspark saying, is Microsoft fixing them or just distributing updates that AMD has developed? So this is kind of with the recall stuff. The recall idea is there. I don't think it's going to change, but it's just they have to encrypt it. They have to lock it behind biometrics. They have to lock it behind some sort of situation that makes it so it's not easily accessible to whoever has physical access to a computer. And especially if they make it opt-in, that's great. If it's a feature that's part of Windows, that's not required, that you can turn on, and then is also secure, I have no problem with recall existing. And then on the side of AMD and Ryzen and getting the fix for that, it's probably in concert. Microsoft and AMD have to work hand in hand to figure it out. AMD can't develop anything without Microsoft's assistance, and Microsoft can't develop anything without AMD's assistance here. I mean, they could. It would just take a lot longer and be a lot more complicated. AMD has the fullest incentive to try to get Microsoft to fix some of these performance bugs themselves instead of just leaving it to Microsoft to get around to when they have time. And then we got Definitely Jarvis saying, banana, 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 terracotta, banana, terracotta, terracotta pie. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad you said it. Thank you. I will see you all back here for more of the hottest tech news tomorrow.